This is a flexible budgeting problem. Let's take a look at the context of the organization. It's a vocational school that expects to earn revenue of $212 per student. They expect faculty wages to be fully variable at $2,100 per course. Course supplies is an expense that is fully variable, but it has two cost drivers: $37 per student plus $45 per cost. And then finally, the mixed expenses are or administrative expenses are a mixed expense with a fixed component of $28,800 and variable components $6 per student, $26 per course. Now, in a minute, we're going to determine the flexible budget for this company. But before we do that, I'd like to point out something right here. Sometimes students get a little confused and they wonder, where did these numbers right here come from? Well, the simple answer is that in the textbook world, in school, those are probably going to be given to you. But the real world answer is this is the results of the company's operations. I mean, even though they may have planned to serve this many students and offer this many courses, that's not what really happened. They really ended up serving 100 fewer students and they offered 5 fewer courses. And that's just reality. You can make a plan, but then life and business happen the way that they're going to happen. So this is just the results of the debits and credits that you guys did in financial accounting. This is what the company's bookkeeping staff would have determined is the results of our operations. We're going to be preparing a flexible budget to determine what should these revenues and expenses have been based upon the actual activity that really occurred. So the static budget right here, these elements would have been determined or predicted well in advance, way before the month of June even started. This information right here is determined after the month is finished, and the flexible budget that we're about to begin preparing also would have been prepared after the month is finished, because only after the month is done do we know what our actual activity was. Let me flip this over to give us a little white space. Now, it doesn't really make a difference what order you put things in. Sometimes people like to put budget first, actual second. I'm going to do actual first simply because we already have the actual results listed. This is simply a mirror image of what I showed you a few minutes ago, a few seconds ago probably. So let's create the flexible budget. Okay. We're going to put that side by side here. Here's our flexible budget. And I'm going to make a little space down here to develop our expectations. So we're going to need to figure out, what do we expect for revenue, for faculty wages. We're going to have course supplies. And then what's that last expense? It looks like administrative expense. Looks like I might have to zoom out just slightly when we get to that, but we'll worry about that in a minute. So what's our expectation for revenue? Well, we know that we plan to charge $212 per student. So $212 per student times how many actual students? 1,810 students. And let's extend that. That's 383,720. How about if I put the 7 in there? Let me clarify that. I didn't write that very well. In fact, it's 383,720. My apologies. Okay, so let's bring that up here. That is our expectation, 383,720. All right, faculty wages. We would expect faculty wages to be variable based upon the number of courses. So let's just say 106 courses times $2,100 per course. We would expect that our faculty wages would be $222,600. We can put that up here next to faculty wages. All right, course supplies, 2 components. $37 per student, so 1,810 students times 37. Maybe I'll put some brackets there just to highlight that. And $45 per course offered. So every course needs maybe some markers or paper or whatever supplies, some tools or something like that. So we offered 106 actual courses, and the expectation is $45 per course. I label that properly as well. And that would tell us that our supplies expense should be $71,740. We can put that up here. Finally, the administrative expense. And I've got to zoom out to make just a little bit of extra room here on the paper. Now, the administrative expense is kind of like the mother of all expenses here, because we're going to have $28,800 fixed component. We're going to have 1,810 students multiplied by $6 per student. We're also going to have, what do we see here, 106 courses times $26 per course. Okay. And when all is said and done, that is going to come out to be $42,416. Let's total up these expenses here. So $222,600 plus $71,740 plus $42,416 is going to be $336,756. And then we can take our revenue minus our expenses and come up with a projected or budgeted net operating income, $49,964. Okay? So that's our flexible budget. Now, the last thing we need to do is we need to figure out our variances. And let's see, we're going to have enough room for this, aren't we? Okay, so variances is it's simply looking at what was actual versus what was expected. So we actually earned $387,740. We would budget for $383,720. So just subtract those two numbers, and we're going to have a variance of $4,020. Now the question to ask yourself is that variance favorable or unfavorable? Well, let's take a look at it. We planned on about $384,000, and we earned about $387,000. Our revenue was more than we expected. That's a favorable thing. That will tend to make our profits greater. Remember that a variance is favorable if it tends to make your profits go up. It's unfavorable if it tends to make your profits go down. Now, the decision rule is going to be similar with expenses. Now, down here, as far as the favorable, unfavorable, we're just going to have to determine, does it make expenses or does it make profit more or less? So down here, our wages are $218,000 actual. Budget was a little over $222,000. That is a difference of $4,400. And we're going to call this favorable because our actual expense came in lower than what we expected. Lower expenses lead to higher profits, at least in the short run. And so we're going to label that as favorable. Certainly, there could be some reasons why a favorable short-term expense variance could be unfavorable in the long run. For example, if maybe we're not purchasing high-quality materials, or we're not properly training our faculty, just a couple of examples. But for purposes of what we're doing here, we're going to label it favorable. Let's take a look at the supplies. The budget was $71,740. The actual is $72,360. We know that's going to be an unfavorable variance because we spent more than budget. The difference between those two numbers is $620. So that's $620 unfavorable. Finally, we look at the administrative expenses. Actual was less than budget, which means it's going to be favorable. And in fact, it was a $700 difference here. Excuse me. That's a $700 favorable variance. Now, what we can do with the total expense line, actual was several $1,000s lower than what we had budgeted for. So let's pull out the calculator. 336,756, 336,756 minus 332,276. I'm coming up with a variance of $4,480 for expenses, and that is favorable. And finally, what we want to do is say, okay, let's look at our bottom line net income, $55,464, looking right there, versus what we expected, $49,964 right here. And I'm coming up with a $5,500 favorable variance. Last thing I like to do is just double check everything here, because we calculated this variance right here looking at actual income versus flexible budget income. But the last thing we can do is I can say, okay, let's double check things by doing this. Revenue was $4,020 favorable, so that's positive. Faculty wages, $4,400 favorable, that's positive. The course supplies were $620 unfavorable, and finally the administrative expenses were favorable. And I'm thinking we just add these up here, 4,400 minus 620 plus 700, and I'm coming up with 8,500. So the question is, did I make a mistake somewhere? And I think I did, because you see this number is not matching this number right here. So let's see if we